Hi crafty friends, I'm back with a process video. This is for Future Craft and Brandy Kincaid, and it is featuring the Mostly Magic kit. This is the kit that came out last month. Now, a little bit of backstory for what I already have on my page. The magic title element that you see in the middle of my layout right now, that was actually a 4x6 card, and I did that the day I got my kit because I knew I wanted to use it on a layout. I had no idea what layout I was going to use it on and what I was going to do with it, but I knew it'd be perfect for a project. So I cut it out the card, and then I cut each of the letters out individually, and then I glued them so they were a little bit closer together, so they were a little bit more narrow than they were on the original card. And then I put the whole thing on a piece of foam, and I knew that at some point it was going to go on a project, and this is the project I decided to use it on. Now I'm also doing a bit of repeat stamping here, which is par for the course in any of my projects when I have a stamp set that I get to play with. And the stamp is just, it was a fairy. It's a girl with wings, and I thought it'd be a cool element to use on my page. Now what I'm doing here is I'm doing a grid style layout, and I'm doing a grid because I wanted to find a way to still show off how awesome the cards are in these kits, but I'm not doing Project Life anymore, at least not right now. Right now I have a different memory keeping system that if you've been following me on Instagram, you've seen a bit of, and if you're not following me on Instagram, go follow me on Instagram so you can see what I'm up to that I don't always get around to filming YouTube videos for. But right now, Project Life just doesn't seem to be sticking for me. I'd love to have a weekly memory keeping system, but every time I've tried Project Life, I fall off in like 5 or 6 weeks. I don't know if it's just too labor intensive or if these 12 by 12 sheets are just intimidating. I'm not sure what it is, but eventually I will figure it out and I'll get it together. So back to the layout. So I'm doing, like I said, I'm doing this grid because I think it'd be a really cool way to show off some of my favorite cards, and it's just an easier way to set up the page. And sorry for that little bit of shaky cam. My cats and my tripod are mortal enemies, and I cannot figure out how to keep them away from it while I'm filming, besides just completely locking them out of the living room, which is also kind of unfair. And so I've managed to edit out most of the shaky cam, but it's kind of impossible to get it all out. So what you saw me do was sort through the embellishments that I wanted to use. The Future Craft kits come with the digital elements, so you can print and cut them out by hand, or if you have a silhouette, you can cut them with any electronic die cutting machine. So what I did was I went in my stash of 6x6 papers, and I pulled out some papers that kind of match the colors in the kit. So there's a green one, a yellow one, a pink one, and a blue one, because I knew I wanted to matte each of my individual elements on some sort of contrasting color so they pop off the page a tiny bit more. And so that's what I'm doing. I cut each piece down so that it fits on the individual mats. And now I have 4 mats, and they're not all exactly the same size. I didn't like measure them before I started, or to make sure I have perfect cuts, but I think they're close enough that they work. And so now I'm putting things back on my page, and I'm trying to figure out how I like them. I have my photo. Well, I guess I should tell you about my photo. So I'm not much of a drinker. I've never been a wine drinker. I don't like beer. I don't like hard alcohol, but I do like a glass of champagne every now and then. And so my husband and I had found this brand of champagne. Also, I don't like dry wines. I'm very picky when it comes to drinking, which is why I don't drink. But I don't like dry wines. So we had found this brand of champagne that was like not super sweet, but it wasn't dry either. And so I poured some in a mason jar, and then I topped it off with cranberry juice because I'm fancy, and I put a strawberry in it, and I felt like I don't know what it is about drinking out of mason jars. I drink water out of mason jars. I keep a quart-sized mason jar by my bed, and I have the wide mouth straw adapter thing. It's like a piece of plastic that you can put in the jar, and that it works as a lid, and I keep that by my bed. And so I will drink everything out of mason jars. And so I felt really fancy. I thought it was a cool photo, and it's an everyday bit of magic, because who doesn't want a frilly girly drink out of a mason jar on the middle of a hot day? I think everyone does. So enough of my rambling, because I don't think you came here to listen to me ramble. I think you came here to see what I'm putting on this page. So I'm sorry about the sirens if you hear them. Yeah, we live right next to a hospital, and it's kind of unavoidable. And I've been trying to find the perfect time of day to film these, and it's always touch and go. So I hope those aren't too distracting. Now what I'm doing is I'm gluing down my grid, and when I had first set up my page, I had it in a typical grid where it's like a straight rectangle, and I accidentally put one of my pieces down, skewed all the way to the right, and I was like, huh, that looks really cool. So I just decided to go for it. So instead of it being, a perfect grid, I decided to have the first two pieces go off to the right, and then the bottom two pieces go off to the left. Now, all I'm doing is embellishing. Like I said, I have these printable pieces that I cut out using my silhouette. And my silhouette and I are mortal enemies. I guess frenemies would be a better term, because some days it really behaves and other days I can't stand it. And I had to actually cut these out twice, and they're still not cut out perfectly, but they work. Also, what I had done earlier was fussy cut a few of those moths that were in a 4x6 card, because I thought they would make a cool embellishment. So I fussy cut a few of those, which I did cut out the video because fussy cutting is really difficult for me, and I feel like I always look silly doing it, and I didn't think you guys wanted to watch me fuss with scissors and some moths. So now I grabbed some puffy stickers that I had in my stash. These are closer to puffy stickers than enamel dots in terms of texture, but they had some cool shapes. There's like different size stars and different size circles, and they match the colors in the kit perfectly. So there's my cluster in the bottom right corner. The text piece says "Make It Magical," and that was also in the die cut piece. And then I put 2 mushroom caps, I put a flower and some puffy stickers, and then I put some of those moths that I fussy cut out of the 4x6 card and called it good. So now I'm going to work on my cluster for the top left. I didn't put any embellishments on the cards that are, touching the outside of the paper, because there's just no room for it. So I figured I'd balance out my cluster on the right and the left side and call it good. So I grabbed another mushroom cap, I grabbed an owl, and a little bit of trivia: owls are my favorite animals. I actually have an owl tattoo. I'm obsessed with owls. There's stuffed owls all over our apartment, and so when I saw these owls in this kit, I was like, yes, this kit is made for me. Must put owls on everything. So now I'm grabbing, there was a moth. I'm going to assume those are moths and not butterflies. Brandy, if you're watching this, feel free to correct me, but I'm going to assume those are moths and not butterflies. So I grabbed a moth from the cut apart sheet, as in addition to the moths that I fussy cut out. And now I'm trying to fix my cluster. So I have a yellow moth, and then I had a blue moth, and I couldn't figure out which one I wanted to put next to that blue owl. So first I put down the like dark greeny blue one, and then there was no color contrast there, and it kind of bothered me. So I ended up picking it up. Now the problem with picking up something after you've glued it to the page is it rips the paper a little bit. So then I had to do some creative MacGyvering, and I ended up just putting another moth right on top of it to cover up that space, and now you can't even see it. Of course, after I put the moth down, I decided I wanted to put it under the owl, so I had to pick up the owl piece a little bit and glue it down, but it all works out just fine, and I think it looks pretty good once it's done. Now you see there's a little bit more contrast between that green, between the blue and the yellow, than there would have been with the blue and the dark teal color, which is the other color I wanted to use. So now I go in my stash and I grab some of these tiny word stickers. These are from Tim Holtz. These are like an essential for me. They go on almost every layout, and I have 3. They come in a bunch of different packs. There's like themed ones, there's occasions, there's standard sayings, and I just keep them all. So I grabbed a few of the tiny word stickers from that Tim Holtz pack. One of them says, remember the now. The other one says today is a new day. And finally, the one that I'm going to put in the bottom corner says good things come in small packages, like tiny mason jars full of champagne. I think that's a good thing in a small package. And then I go back in and I grab some more puffy stickers to kind of balance out the left and the right side. I don't know if that really matches up with design theory, but in terms of how I balance my layouts, if I do something on the right side, chances are I'm going to do it again on the left, especially if it's like a layout like this, it's taking up a whole page and not in like one straight vertical line or one straight horizontal line. So now I'm gluing down my title piece. And then the next thing I do is I actually decide I want to put a border on this layout. And so I grab a black and white diagonally striped paper. I could have left it here, but I just think more is more sometimes. And so I grabbed this paper, and I believe it's by, I want to say it's Amy Tangerine. but I have a couple sheets of this because it's just a good neutral for bordering things. And so I cut 2 half-inch strips, and I'm like, I'm just going to put a border on the top and the bottom of the page. And then after I put it down, I hate it. Like I put it down and I'm like, oh, why did I do this? It's so stark compared to the rest of the layout that I put it down and I was like, oh, this is entirely too much. How can I fix this? And then I'm like, color, of course we'll fix this. And since I still had the scraps of the 6x6 papers sitting on the desk, I decided I'm going to rip a color from rip a strip from each color. Oh, I cannot talk today. I decided I was going to rip a strip from each color and use that to kind of tone down the stark of the black and the white. And actually, once it was done, I thought it looked pretty good. And that is the very last thing I do for this layout. So after the layout's finished, you're going to have some still photos. And then, if you want to hang out more, I'll have links to some of my other videos. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I'm going to put some music on after the break so that you can just kind of watch me finish up this process. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe if you had fun hanging out with me. I love reading your comments. I try to respond to every single one of them. Getting YouTube comments is like the highlight of my day because I actually work really hard on these videos. I listen to my voiceovers and I'm just like, why does anybody watch me do these things? Why do people come back? But reading your comments is like the highlight of my day. It's literally the best part of this. So if you hung out to the very end, please leave me a comment or just leave me a thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe. I am back filming videos and I have lots of stuff coming up by the end of the year. So again, please feel free to comment and subscribe and hang out with me further. Thank you so much for tuning in and have a great day, crafty friends.